Welcome, traveler of the night. You've found Bedtime Myths and Mysteries, where old stories still breathe beneath the moonlight. Tonight, we follow the flicker of a single flame, a lantern wandering through mist and centuries, the tale of the man who out-tricked the devil himself and paid for it forever. Settle back, let the room grow dark, because once you know the truth behind the jack-o'-lantern, every glowing pumpkin will feel a little colder. Ireland, so the storytellers say, was home to a man named Jack, a drunkard, a trickster, clever enough to bargain with devils and stupid enough to try. He was called Stingy Jack because he paid no one, shared with no one, and cared for nothing but his next drink. One autumn night, Jack staggered down a lonely road, lanternless, humming through the fog. Out of the darkness came a figure, tall, pale, with eyes like dying coals. The devil had come to claim his soul. Jack, ever sly, begged for one last drink. The devil agreed. They went to a tavern, but when the bill arrived, Jack protested he had no coin. "Turn yourself into a silver piece," he said, "and we'll pay the innkeeper. Then change back before he notices." Amused, the devil did just that. But Jack snatched the coin and stuffed it into his pocket beside a small cross, trapping Satan inside. Jack refused to free him until the devil promised not to take his soul for 10 years. The deal was struck. 10 years later, to the day, Jack met the devil again beneath a leafless tree. "Your time has come," the devil said. "One last favor," Jack pleaded. "Fetch me an apple before I go." The devil, tired of games, climbed the tree. While he hung among the limbs, Jack carved a cross into the bark, trapping him once more. Again, Jack bargained, "Swear you'll never take my soul." And the devil, furious but bound, agreed. Years passed. Jack drank himself into the grave, neither heaven nor hell. When Jack reached heaven's gates, St. Peter shook his head. "You lived a wicked life," he said. "You cannot enter." So Jack turned to the gates of hell. The devil waited, laughing. "I keep my word, Jack. I'll not take your soul." He hurled a single ember at the trickster. "Go back to the darkness you made for yourself." Jack wandered into the night, the ember glowing faintly in his hands. To shield it from the wind, he carved a lantern from a hollowed turnip and set the coal inside. From that night onward, travelers claimed to see a pale light bobbing across bogs and roadsides, a lost soul seeking rest that would never come. They called him Jack of the Lantern. Long before Halloween became orange and plastic, the Irish and Scottish carved turnips, mangolds, and even potatoes each All Hallows' Eve. Faces grim and sharp stared from the vegetables, a warning to wandering spirits that a soul already haunted this house. When immigrants carried their customs to America in the 19th century, they found pumpkins, larger, softer, and perfect for carving. The legend of Stingy Jack crossed the Atlantic with them, merging with colonial harvest festivals until the modern jack-o'-lantern was born. But the heart of it, that single ember in a carved shell, still glowed with the same meaning, a soul caught between worlds, lightless except for its own damnation. Folklorists trace the earliest written mention of jack-o'-lantern to 17th century England, where it originally described the mysterious lights seen over marshes, what we now call will-o'-the-wisps. The name then attached itself to the Irish tale of Stingy Jack, blending folk motifs, the trickster bargain, the damned wanderer, the ghostly light. By the 1830s, printed collections like the Dublin Penny Journal retold the story almost exactly as we know it today. Early drawings show not pumpkins, but turnips, grimacing with candlelight, perched in windows, to frighten away evil or mischievous spirits on Oiche Shamna, the night of Samhain. Archaeologists have even unearthed scorched turnips with crude faces from 19th century Irish cottages, the real ancestors of every glowing pumpkin on your doorstep tonight. But myths evolve, and as Halloween spread through America's cities, the meaning of Jack's lantern changed again. As Irish and Scottish immigrants arrived in America throughout the 1800s, they brought their Samhain stories, whispered beside fires, retold in taverns, and feared in candlelit rooms. But the world they entered was one of new landscapes and old superstitions, colliding in a strange transatlantic alchemy. The settlers found pumpkins, vast and hollow, native to the New World, and glowing with a golden light when carved. It was as if the land itself had offered them a new vessel for their old ghost. Soon, the turnip's scowling face gave way to something larger, brighter, a beacon that could ward off both spirits and loneliness in the growing night of October's end. But as the pumpkins multiplied, so too did the fear that something still lingered behind them, a soul unclaimed, walking among the fields with a lantern that burned from within. To the Celts, Samhain was never about horror. It was about thresholds. The old year ended with the harvest, and the dead were closer than ever. People left out food for ancestors and carved faces to frighten away the other spirits, those not welcome. Jack's legend fit perfectly into this sacred liminal night. He became the symbol of the lost soul, barred from both heaven and hell, forever searching for warmth and forgiveness. In rural Ireland, farmers claimed to see him drifting along hedgerows, a small, flickering light weaving between fields. If you followed it, they said, you'd lose your way and wander until dawn. Children were told to hurry home before dark, lest Jack mistake them for company in his endless walk. Of course, the historian's mind asks, where did these wandering lights truly come from? Modern science points to phosphine and methane, gases released from decaying organic matter in marshes. When they mix with oxygen, they can spontaneously ignite, producing brief blue flames over the bogs. But to the people of the time, there was no chemistry, only mystery. When they saw lights dancing on the water, they saw Jack, condemned to carry hell's coal across the earth. So, the next time someone explains the will-o'-the-wisp as simple gas, remember that for thousands of years, it was something much deeper, a glimpse into the other side of the veil. By the Middle Ages, Christianity had tried to tame Samhain with All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, merging pagan ritual with holy remembrance. But folk customs don't vanish, they hide. The people still lit lanterns, they still left offerings, and on October 31st, they still whispered prayers to keep Jack at bay. Over time, Jack's wandering light was joined by others, the souls of the restless dead, the witches' familiars, the banshees crying for the dying. Each Halloween, the world thins, not into fantasy, but into memory. The festival we celebrate today is stitched from centuries of very real belief that the dead walk and the living must light their way home. It's easy to forget that what we now call trick-or-treating also began as a pact with the dead. In medieval Britain and Ireland, people performed souling, going door to door on All Souls' Eve, offering prayers for the departed in exchange for food called soul cakes. Young men dressed in masks and carried carved lanterns to frighten away evil spirits, or to mimic them. The act of wearing a mask, of playing ghost, was not mischief, it was protection. If Jack or other wandering spirits came calling, they would see you already marked by death and pass you by. When these traditions crossed into America, they transformed yet again, from solemn ritual to playful festivity. But behind every costume and every glowing pumpkin lies the shadow of that older truth, the living pretending to be dead, to survive the night when the dead remember us. A real name in the shadows. Here's where the folklore meets the faint edge of history. In County Kilkenny, archival records from the late 1600s mention a local blacksmith, Sean O'Geallagine, anglicised later as Jack Galligan. He was infamous for his debts, his wit, and his fondness for trickery. A parish record even includes a priest's note describing him as a man of no grace, whose cunning mocks both men and God. No one can prove he inspired the story, but it's easy to see how tales grow around such figures, especially in a time when sin and salvation were not only moral, but physical. A soul's fate was a public concern. When Jack Galligan died suddenly in the autumn of 1674, villagers claimed strange lights were seen above his burial ground, a phosphorescent glow drifting through the mist. Coincidence? Perhaps. But it's how folklore roots itself, not from imagination, but from observation that refuses to be explained. Today, when we carve pumpkins, light candles, and place them by our doors, few remember why. But every glowing face still carries the shape of Jack's curse, that hollowed shell protecting a small, defiant flame against the dark. Modern folklorists call it cultural memory, when the body forgets the meaning, but the hands remember the ritual. Each cut, each flicker of the match is a reenactment of an older prayer. Let the light keep the darkness out. In rural Ireland, the legend lingered long after electric light banished the night. Elderly farmers told children never to mock the dead, and never, under any circumstance, to follow a lone light through the fields. Some swore that on certain nights, when the mist rolled thick across the bogs, they could see him. A man with no shadow, walking against the wind, a lantern swinging in his hand. The science of fear. Psychologists studying folklore note something curious. The tale of Stingy Jack resonates because it binds morality to mystery. It's not just a ghost story, it's a warning. Be clever, but not cruel. Seek warmth, but not greed. Defy darkness, but don't think you can outwit it. That moral gravity gives Halloween its unique pulse. Laughter and fear tangled together, the sacred hidden inside the silly. Even now, in a world of screens and streetlights, we still crave that shadow, that feeling of standing at the threshold where stories are almost real. What's fascinating is that Jack's curse isn't unique. In Japan, there's the tale of Hitodama, glowing souls of the dead that drift above the ground like blue fire. In Brazil, the boitatá, a serpent of flame, guards the forests against the souls of the wicked. In Mexico, the cempasúchil petals of Dia de los Muertos guide spirits home with their light and scent. Every culture, across centuries, dreamed of the same image, a light in the dark, wandering but eternal. It seems humanity has always feared and needed that faint reminder that somewhere between heaven and hell, someone is still walking. Fire is our oldest companion, the first thing we ever tamed, and the first thing that ever frightened us. The jack-o'-lantern, at its heart, is a symbol of that uneasy friendship, a warning that light can save us, but it can also expose us. As archaeologist Ronan O'Driscoll once wrote, "When you carve a face into a turnip, you make the darkness visible." And maybe that's what Halloween has always been, the one night we dare to make the darkness visible, to laugh at it, to name it, to hold it in our hands before we blow it out. If you ever find yourself walking home late on Halloween night, past the carved pumpkins, past the empty streets, you might notice a flicker in the distance, a light too steady to be a car, too low to be a lamp. It might dance once, twice, then vanish. And if you stop to look, if you really look, you may feel a cold breath move behind you. Don't turn around, don't follow it, because some say Stingy Jack still walks, his coal never cooling, his bargain never ending. So the next time you carve your pumpkin, Remember the man who thought he could cheat the devil. Remember the faces in the turnips, the old marsh lights, the prayers whispered against the fog. Because Halloween isn't just a night of costumes and candy. It's a ritual of remembering that once, long ago, a single ember was all that stood between the living and the dark. And that ember still burns. You've been listening to Bedtime Myths and Mysteries. If you enjoyed walking through the fog with us tonight, make sure to subscribe, light your lantern, and join us again for another journey through the shadows of history.